Welcome to pregame.tv. I'm Ted Savransky, Teddy Covers, joined here by Steve Fezzik. And today, we're going to break down the Final Four from a Las Vegas perspective, of course. We got the matchups already set. Kentucky -5 against Wisconsin. Duke -5 against Michigan State. But let's get this started with a look at the overview. Odds to win it all. Steve, any good bets?
None. You got Kentucky at 5-6, and that's the least bad of the four. And then you look at the various odds. Wisconsin 7-2. It sounds attractive, right? But you look at Michigan State at 8-1. Let's talk about how bad these odds really are. Michigan State 8-1. If you take them, take your dollar. Go ahead and bet them to beat Duke. Boom. Now you got over $3. Let's say they're going to play Kentucky. You take your $3, put them on the money line, get not 3-1, but more than 2-1 certainly. So let's say you win $8 from your $3. Now you're at 11, 12, $13, somewhere around there from your dollar. Way better than the 8-1. If you like these to bet into these futures markets, almost always better just to bet the money line. After you win, cash your ticket, bet another money line.
So was that the right strategy for Michigan State? Would that be the strategy for Wisconsin as well?
Be the strategy for all four of them. The house vig in these games is just very, very large. It turns out it's counterintuitive. The only one that you don't get ripped off on, basically, is the big favorite. The big favorite, if you money line Kentucky twice, you probably get somewhat close to that 5-6. It wouldn't be much of a difference.
And really, when we talk about Kentucky, at the start of the tournament, it was basically Kentucky even money against the field. Now that Kentucky has survived their test against Notre Dame. Now, you have to lay a little bit of juice with Kentucky, but the odds haven't changed as dramatically for Kentucky as they have for the other teams.
A big part of that is that Kentucky basically had to buy into the Sweet 16. And so
as opposed to Duke? I mean, it wasn't like Duke had a tough test the first weekend.
Duke's lost in the first round as a 2 seed before, so they certainly could have lost to an 8-9 in round 2. So, but you look at it, and so Kentucky got through. But what awaits them now is they've got to go ahead and play a level of competition where they got to play Wisconsin and Duke. So arguably they got to play 2 of the top 5 teams in the Final Four. So their road in the Final Four is much harder than what it could have been.
Sure, and especially when we look at the SEC this season. And let's not give Duke this win over Michigan State just yet. We got to break down the game first a little bit, Fez.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the Kentucky-Wisconsin game. I mean, Arizona shoots 56% from the floor against the Badgers. They hit 28 of 30 from the free throw line against the Badgers, and it still wasn't enough. Wisconsin with a near perfect offensive game. We're talking about the #1 team in the country in points per possession on offense this year. But on the other hand, here's Kentucky. What do they rank? I think #2 in the country in 2-point field goal percentage defense and #1 in the country in 3-point field goal percentage defense. For a team like Wisconsin, loaded with shooters. You got Kaminsky and Decker and Hayes and Gasser and Koning, all of whom can hit from downtown. But when it comes to getting good shots against Kentucky's defense and to being able to control the paint, they didn't really control the paint against Arizona. Are they going to be able to do it here?
Well, Notre Dame got plenty of good shots. If Notre Dame can get good shots, I think Whiskey can get good shots. And I think that's why the pros came in and took them +6. A small window of opportunity that slammed shut on you.
It is worth noting, for as much of a public team as Kentucky is, heavy money has come against the Wildcats in both Sweet 16 games and already here in the Final Four. The wise guys do not like John Calipari's squad.
How wise were they in that West Virginia? And in retrospect, sometimes one handicapping aspect's better than everything else. When the kid came out and said they're going to be 36-1, they were drawing dead. Once that quote hit the billboard, I have to tell you, Teddy, though, I'm not going to have a play on either one of these games. I've already applied for a Nevada gaming license.
Really?
I want to get that through in the next 24 hours so I can book action both ways because I really think these lines are right.
They're right on, tight lines. Let's talk about the other matchup, Duke against Michigan State. These two teams played already once this year in Indianapolis. It wasn't here in a giant stadium in Indianapolis, but they played at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. Duke 81-71 final score in that ball game. And it's worth noting, Michigan State shot 50% from the floor in that game and lost by double digits. The Spartans have clearly gotten better over the course of the last month.
As has Duke.
No question. But Michigan State, from where they were compared to Duke, Duke went up to Wisconsin and blew up Wisconsin. They beat Michigan State here. Duke played well in November and December. Michigan State really didn't start playing well until March. And, of course, we have to scream it, Tom Izzo, Tom Izzo, Tom Izzo. That's all we ever hear about Michigan State is how good Tom Izzo is. What about the personnel for the Spartans? Can they match up with Duke in the paint? Can they stop Okafor down low?
They got the bodies down there. I don't really like Michigan State, but I don't like Izzo that much in the Final Four. I think Izzo's a great tournament coach, but I don't think he's a great Final Four coach. So he gets them there. But I'll take Coach K and his personnel. I mean, I'd actually be shocked, and I say this before every Duke game. I'm like that crazy uncle no one wants to invite over for Thanksgiving. The last thing the ref does when he goes to the stadium, his wife kisses him goodbye and says, whatever you do not make a bad call against Duke. And they consider, and it makes sense because the ratings are higher, the powers to be want to get the game ref fairly, and they want Duke in the finals.
Well, I mean, Duke-Kentucky is a matchup the networks want. Do you think they get it?
It's a great question. Because they both have to get there. I could see the collar getting tight on Kentucky. You know, I saw it get tight against Notre Dame, and it's amazing to me how everyone's like, they found a way to win. Well, the kid could have made the shot, and then they would have found a way to lose.
Sure, and they also got a pretty fortuitous whistle in the last 10 seconds of that ball game. I think Sparty's got some problems here, and I had Michigan State. I'll call it a lucky winner, but I cashed with Michigan State as my game of the year, tournament game of the year this past weekend. I do not expect to bet them against Duke, and here's why. You talked about Michigan State with the size inside. I'm not buying that. I think Schilling and Costello are going to have a very hard time with Okafor underneath. And let's not forget, last weekend, who did Duke play? Well, let's see. They played Utah with a pair of 7-footers, one of whom is going to be a first-round NBA draft choice this next year. And they followed up with a game against Louisville. Right, Sparty?
Gonzaga,
sorry.
Sabonis.
Exactly.
That big wide stiff that can't move at all. They got big bodies.
They had multiple 7-footers.
No doubt.
Michigan State doesn't have that. So while we are not going to make any recommendations for sides and totals on this particular video, we're going to talk about one prop. The props aren't out yet.
That's what I want to hear. You got a prop bet.
Yeah, but the props aren't out yet. I don't know if we're looking at points, if we're looking at points, rebounds, assists. But the bottom line for me, let's make it official. Should we make it official?
Want to make it official on your prop bet on You're going to have Okafor. You're going to bet on him.
We have to be betting on Okafor in this game.
Make it official here.
I don't think Costello and Schilling can stop Okafor. Okafor last week had a rough time against the NBA caliber 7-footers. He's not going to face them in this game. So in general, I will be looking for props over the next few days, betting Jahlil Okafor over the total, whether it's a point total or whether it's a point, rebound, and assists. I think he's going to have a big day against the Spartans.
I'm just happy you didn't have a prop bet on whether I can spell his full name, because you know where I would be betting. So I like it. I might put a few pennies on that myself.
Very good. And that's going to wrap it up for our first video here on pregame.tv. More to come. Stay tuned.